Yo, what's up, everyone? It's Animosity. Um, Today we're gonna be looking at the patch 13.10, the patch notes that changed like almost a lot of mythic items, legendary items, and things like that. And we're gonna see how it will affect Kled next patch, and maybe possibly there will be potential new build, or maybe some bad builds that are not good. Just analyzing it and see how it will affect Kled. Excuse me for my mic. I'm using my headset mic, so it might sound a little weird or worse. I'm not sure. My snowball has been acting up, so I'm using my headset mic. Anyways, let's get into it. We can skip all the ADC buffs, whatever. Skip all this, Bloodthirster. Um, no, don't really care. Gale Force, blah blah blah. Ginsu's. All this kind of useless on Kled. Mortal Reminder did get a buff, so if you do want to go crit build, it actually won't really work anymore because Navoria, yeah, it's a mythic tier now. So unless you want to give up Eclipse or whatever for Navori, I don't think crit build is any good anymore. But I do think that there is going to be a new lethality build on Kled now. Phantom Dancer. I know Soul Mario goes Phantom Dancer on Kled. I personally don't think it's that great, but if you're going crit build, I can see someone going like Immortal Reminder into Phantom Dancer or something, or Phantom into Immortal. I don't know. I think crit build is worse now though, so I wouldn't recommend it. But if you want to try it out, see if it fits your style, then be my guest. Static Shift is back. Don't think this will be useful on Kled because your wave clear is already really good, so the passive doesn't really do anything for you. Storm Razor, blah blah, Collector, Zeal. Assassin item changes. Here it is. See, Duskblade got a change. You now deal, your spells deal up to an additional 15% bonus damage based on the target's missing health. So, although this may sound good, you gotta remember that Kled only has like 4 spells. And I don't believe that this works on your W. Maybe it does if someone wants to test it out. I believe it doesn't. So this would only work in your Q and E, so this is not really good on Kled as an item. Yeah, this doesn't really matter too. But yeah, I mean, if you want to try it out, you can. I don't think it'll be good. Prowler's Claw. Now this is an item that I've been excited for. It has a new passive and it's no longer a mythic. After dashing, blinking, or exiting stealth, your next attack on an enemy champion deals whatever amount of damage. 10-second cooldown, by the way. That's pretty short. If the owner is melee, the attack also slows by 99% for 0.5 seconds. So, what I'm thinking, this is a very good third item on Kled if the enemy team is squishy, or if if they don't have much tanks, or if you're ahead. I think this will be a very good third item because your E is a dash, and also your Q counts as a dash, I believe. So if you Q and you auto attack them, you'll be able to slow them by 99%. You can either attack them and run away, try to run away or kite, or you can attack them, slow them, and then chase them. So I think this would be a really good third item to replace crit build if you're behind. Or not, sorry, not if you're behind, if you're ahead, or if they're very squishy. I think this is really good, especially since they lowered the cost too. Lowering these doesn't really matter. The passive just sounds really good. So I think this can be a substitute for the crit build. If you don't want to go crit build anymore, I think you could go Prowler's Claw third item now. Youmuu's Ghostblade. Now I have seen many discussion around Ghostblade, and how it may be the new Kled Mythic. At first, I was skeptical. I was saying, nah, this kind of doesn't sound that great. You know, movement speed doesn't really sound that good in Kled. He doesn't really need it. But as I'm like thinking about it more and more, this actually could be a new mythic item for Kled. After you go Ravenous Hydra, you go Youmuu's Ghostblade. I can see it working because you'll have higher roam potential. and you're gonna be able to kill squishies better than if you went Eclipse, because Eclipse passive damage is based on armor pen and percent HP, so it's not as good as previous Prowler's Claw on Kled. But now that this is a mythic, this gives a ton of lethality and movement speed. So not only are you able to roam a lot, you're gonna gain a ton of lethality based on level, of course, um, which is just very good if you're if they're squishy and you don't have to go like Eclipse if you're against like a Scion maybe because he has a lot of health, or because he has armor or something. So if you're very ahead, I think this is really good as a mythic. Now that I think about it more, especially look, it powers each of your other legendary items with 7 attack damage. That is also huge because your AD ratios on every single one of your abilities are super high. So this is pretty big too. So yeah, I think if they don't have, if they're not really tanky or have a lot of HP, you should definitely try Yumo's Gooseblade instead of Eclipse as mythic. I think this is a really solid contender for Eclipse on Kled. Yeah, this is pretty huge because also your active also gives 25% bonus movement speed instead of 20. So I mean, I can see this working when you're dismounted, or just tracing an enemy instead of, if you want to save your ult. You don't have to go Ghost. I know Soul Warrior goes Ghost. Maybe you can build this instead. You don't have to use Ghost anymore. Yeah, I think this is really good. Support item changes Abyssal Mask. Not really that good on Kled. Shouldn't really build it. Support items, blah blah blah. Yeah, where's the other one? I believe it's Radiant Virtue. Here we go. So still mythic, but the cost is now 500 less gold. So this wasn't really a great item on Kled. I personally went it, like very rare cases I would go this item if I'm super behind and like my entire team is fed. Like there's no point in me going Damage or Ravenous Hydra, so I would just build like Radiant Virtue into Black Cleaver and just give my teammates HP. I actually believe now that this is kind of viable if you're super behind. Instead of building Gorge Reaker or something, I believe Radiant Virtue. It kind of sounds troll, but I believe Radiant Virtue might be an option now, a more viable option on Kled now if you're super behind, because they changed the unique passive. So although you have lower maximum health when you press your ult, where is it? Yeah, I mean, it's 500 less gold, and although the maximum health is lowered and the heal is lowered, I still think it'll be fine item. Yeah, I mean, I honestly, you don't go Radiant Virtue if you're ahead. Like I said, only if you're super behind, Radiant Virtue is a choice. But there's also Gore Drinker. I know people don't like Gore Drinker, but where is it? It also got changed. Oh, Divine Sunder. This is super good, I believe, because they're moving a lot of the Spellblade damage from the percent HP to just flat base AD. So I believe Tabbies will be way more effective against Divine Sunder users like Jax and Camille. I believe now the matchup for Jax and Camille, I would say Fiora, but like you should be banning Fiora anyway if you're gonna play Kled. I believe the matchup now is gonna be a lot more, or not really a lot, but it'll be a bit easier now that the percent health damage is lowered. Even though this is increased. Tabbies will be more effective against that. I believe that's what Tabbies blocks. I believe it blocks the base AD damage from Spellblade, not the percent health. I don't know. Someone can correct me if I'm wrong. But I think this is very good to very good for Kled. Not to use, but just saying this change is good for Kled because of the matchups and the champions that Kled might go against that may build this. I think it'll do less damage to Kled now that it the 2% lower percent health damage. Boom Winter, Force of Nature. Force of Nature, I believe. Yeah, this is a nerf. 10 stacks now, blah blah. I still think it'll be fine on Kled if it's very heavy AP, but honestly, you should be building Maul, which I will talk about later. This can be an item to go after Maul if they're like 4 AP, but I don't see a reason why you would build this otherwise. Maul is just much better. Better stats, more cost efficient, I believe. And it gives AD. Gordrieger. I honestly like Gordrieger. I build it sometimes if my team needs a bit of a front line and I don't really need Eclipse. The gold cost was lowered, and this doesn't really matter that much, but yeah. This is it's a buff to, it's still a buff to Kled. You know, if you like Gore Drinker, this is pretty big on Kled. And if you go Gore Drinker all games, well then this is really good for you. If you have Gore Drinker as a side option, it's still good for you because it got buffed. So, yeah. Now this is interesting. Hole Breaker. Now Kled is a good split pusher because if you go Demolish, you do a ton of damage to turrets, and plus your W just makes it so that you could take a plate literally every time you touch their tower. Yeah, they did buff it. 10 more AD, and you now get 5% more movement speed. This is now, I think it's a more viable item on Kled. Not like a second or a first item, but like a third item. If you think you're gonna be heavy split push that game, or if your team needs someone to split push that game, or just split pushing in general, this will be a good third or fourth item if you're not going to group on Kled. So yeah, I think it's more viable on Kled now. The only thing I hate about this is now that Yorick is basically buffed, as well as Scion. This is gonna be so cringe on Scion. This 5% movement speed. Gosh, and the more attack damage. For Doms, blah blah. This is pretty cringe because now it deals physical and magic damage based on max health difference. So honestly, this is pretty bad for Kled because now it'll do physical and magic. Yeah. Now here's what I was talking about. Maul. The gold cost was lowered. Super good on Kled now that the gold cost is lowered. I mean, this was already a very good item on Kled anyway, but these, I believe, don't really matter too much for Kled. This is what intrigues me. 100 less gold. Yeah, just a better item on Kled now. 100 less gold. Sterix is a new gigantification thing on Lifeline. I still don't think this will be good on Kled ever, because he gains like a 200 HP shield. It's not that low, but it's like, it sucks. I still don't think Sterix will be good, even though it, you know, gives you this. Yeah. Stridebreaker. I know some people say Stridebreaker is kind of cringe on Kled, but Stridebreaker is an option on Kled. I honestly have gone it a couple times in games, and it felt good when it was good. Like if I'm against a high mobility team, even if you're like even and their team is high mobility, or if your team is fed, your team needs someone who can, you know, slow people down. Stridebreaker is a good option. Yeah, 60 or 10 more AD. It's pretty good. So if you want to go Stridebreaker, now it's I got a buff. So I personally will go Stridebreaker some games. If you don't know how to use it, I don't recommend. Um, but yeah, Triforce, this won't really be good on Kled. Just because of the way, just because like Spellblade is not really good on Kled. And, you know, attack speed, not that good on Kled either. And doesn't really give that much AD. Yeah. Oh, and where is it? Minions, blah blah. Unleash Teleport. This is super good for Kled now. I believe you can take TP on Kled now more frequently than when you used to, because Unleash TP is now 10 minutes instead of 14. That's so huge. You can cover dives easier. You know, you can gain, like, you know, whatever, just help your team out easier. Especially with Kled, with his ults, you can teleport to a ward that's in a faraway bush, ult down a lane. This is super good for Kled. TP is going to be just really good summoner spell on Kled now instead of Ignite. You can still go Ignite if you want. I personally might just be going TP almost every game if it looks good. If I'm not gonna do a lot, you know. Yeah. And that's basically it. Is there anything for Kled here? No. Okay. But yeah, those are my thoughts on the item changes and everything, and how it may affect Kled. So, I mean, yeah, leave a comment. Let me know what you think about these changes, and I'll see you guys soon.